I'm very, very pleased to introduce Dr. Randy Larkins, who is the chair and an assistant professor of Applied Statistics and Research Methods program here at UNC. He is an expert in qualitative and mixed methods research with a background in psychology, education, and human development. Dr. Larkins is deeply invested in student success and is a longtime contributor to Bear grads. He really cares about grad students and getting them to where they need to be. He is appreciated by his students and his colleagues and by me for his ability to take really difficult concepts and explain them in ways that are easy to understand, and for taking what seem like insurmountable goals, like writing a dissertation, and breaking it down into steps that can really be accomplished. I'd also like to introduce Dr. Cindy Wesley, who is the Associate Dean of UNC's Graduate School. She has a PhD from McGill University, and she has taught at the University of Cambridge and Lambuth University before coming to UNC, and we're very lucky to have her. Dr. Wesley is also very dedicated to student success and keeps her eyes on everything from the big pictures to the nuts and bolts of graduate student support. So she's a great person to know, and she will have good things to say tonight. So with that, I turn it over to our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? All right. The reason this is a series is because I would like to take it slowly so people can understand all the different intricacies there are involved in this dissertation preparation. To me, a dissertation preparation starts from the very beginning when you become a graduate student, and then it unfolds from there. So before I get into it, I just want to say a few more things about me. I started helping people with dissertations around 15 years ago, and I have helped, I believe, over 60 people get their doctorates, and that is based on me acting as a research consultant and then a professor. So I have some experience, and I'd be more than happy to help you any way you want. And I don't mind being interrupted. So if you have a question, thankfully Stephanie's here to help, and she can interrupt anytime. Dr. Wesley, would you like to say anything before we start?
I'm just really pleased that you asked me to be here, Dr. Larkins, to talk about how the graduate school can help, and also to give my perspectives on how our students can start on day one using things like degree works and their plan of study to map out the resources that they'll need to get through a dissertation.
Thank you. Feel free, Dr. Wesley, to interrupt me anytime if I've forgotten something or there's something you could add. So let me just go through this. Today, what we're going to talk about is, as I said, from the beginning, when you begin to be a doctoral student, what do you need to do to successfully prepare for a dissertation? I have helped too many people who have taken all of their doctoral courses and then told me that they want to start working on their dissertation. And that's not the right time to do it. The right time to do it is when you come in at the very beginning. So today we're going to talk about all the things outside of your actual dissertation writing that I think you need to do so that you can finish your dissertation on time and successfully. The second session will be about the dissertation proposal, which is the first 3 chapters of your dissertation. And I'll go through each chapter and what it is that you need to do, and I have some templates that I'll provide you. Session 3, the final chapters, will talk about what happens after your proposal is accepted and what you'll need to do to finish up and actually submit a successful dissertation to the graduate school. So here's our agenda. The first thing is, the dissertation is a process. It's a years-long process. And so I want to welcome you to that. Talk about some early things that I think you need to do. How to utilize your coursework and your plan of study and your doctoral committee all so that you can successfully pass your exams and your proposal and finally your final dissertation. I'll also talk a little bit about developing a parking lot, but I'll mention that right now. A parking lot is something that you may have an idea about, but it's not really connected right now. You should keep your ideas there. I actually had a whole folder of uh, articles or just plain thoughts that were written in notebook, my notebook, that I just put there. And sometimes those were extremely useful for me to finish my dissertation. So think about it. I'm also going to talk real heavily tonight about this website, https www.unco.edu/graduate school. It's a really important website, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about why I think that is. So, welcome to the process. I don't know exactly where you are in the process. I'm hoping you're earlier rather than later. But for those of you who are just starting, here's some early things to think about. The first thing that I didn't know when I was a student is one time when I wrote an email, I said I was a doctoral candidate, and my professor wrote back and said, "No, you're not." Get that off. And so I wanted to explain that to you, and it's actually in our catalog. And so I want to read that. First, you're a doctoral student, but there's a certain time that you become a candidate. So here's the reading. Doctoral students advance to candidacy upon passing the written and oral comprehensive exams and filing an approved dissertation proposal and submitting all the required paperwork for the dissertation proposal to the graduate school. Because the term doctoral candidate has a specific institutional connotation, doctoral students may not use the term doctoral candidate until this status is documented by the graduate school. Upon meeting all requirements for the doctoral candidacy, the graduate school notifies the office of the registrar is authorized to change all prior grades. Well, I'm sorry, I read too much. But anyway, so those of you who have not done your comprehensive examinations yet and your proposal are not candidates, you're graduate students, doctoral students. So I just wanted to let you know that before you get embarrassed like I did.
And, Randy, there's an even more significant reason these days, because people who are approved doctoral candidates also get a break in their registration. So if you're, for example, using financial aid to get through your degree program, as many students are, once you're a doctoral candidate, then the next semester for which you're registering, you can receive full-time financial aid at 3 credits of dissertation and part-time at 1 credit. So just important to know, and it allows you to stretch your 799 credits out over the amount of time that you need to be using them.
Yes, thank you. And I realized when I read that, and when Dr. Wesley was talking about 799 credits, that you may not know what those are. We'll try to explain those. But if you hear a term you don't understand, please let us know and we'll explain anything. So here's some things to think about in terms of the graduate school website. And as an advisor of students, I use this all the time. There are people who are available to answer all your questions about dissertations and your dissertation resources. I've got the Associate Vice President of Research and Dean of the Graduate School here and Dr. Wesley, but underneath these two people are quite a few people that I interact with on a weekly basis who are really, really helpful and informative and friendly to answer questions. But just a word of warning, they're very busy people. So your research advisor should be the first contact. If you have a question about your dissertation process, talk to your research advisor. And I'm going to talk more about your relationship with your research advisor in a little bit. But just so that you can get more familiar with this website, I've got the link here, and you should become familiar with some of these people because they really are important to your process.
And if I could just interject there, Randy.
Yeah.
You'll also find that on the graduate school website, there are resources like what is the extra paperwork you need to submit
Yes.
with your proposal? Like, what are those? And we have an entirely electronic dissertation process. So like you'll never have to submit 300 pages of text to the graduate school for anything.
Yes.
Not in the hard copy. And also the handbook, like the manual for theses and dissertations is on the website, and it gives you all the formatting instructions. So like we require 1-inch margins all the way around, that kind of thing. And it's good to go ahead and I think it's a good idea throughout your program to be writing, according to if you're using APA or Chicago Manual of Style, whatever the style manual is, but also start incorporating those pieces of the thesis and dissertation manual. And when you get to the point of needing to check your formatting, we have a Canvas course, a Canvas module that our thesis and dissertation reviewer created with ID&D to help students with some of the tricky issues or the common problems we see with formatting in MS Word.
Yeah.
So hope that helps.
Yeah. And that, I guess that's what I'm saying is I'm pointing out a few things today, but there are actually much more that we'll talk about in the next two series, parts of the series. But you should really just become very familiar with this graduate school website. It's extremely helpful.
Oh,
go
I've
ahead.
also, sorry, Randy, I've also dropped in the chat the webpage for UNC's Office of Research and Sponsored Programs. Because if you're in a field where you're going to be interviewing people, you're going to be doing surveys, you will need to apply most likely for IRB, Institutional Review Board,
Yes.
approval, or for exemption status. And you can get information about what we call research compliance on that website and about that process. And Dr. Larkins knows it thoroughly, but I just thought it might be helpful to have a web resource for it.
And while we're dropping names, I'll go ahead and drop one in the chat as well. RCL at unco.edu, the Research Consulting Lab. I have taken some students from the very beginning of their research before they ever even made it into a dissertation and helped them for years to get through the dissertation process. And the Research Consulting Lab, RCL at unco.edu, is a very invaluable resource as well that I think you should use. But in terms of these forms, there are a lot of forms in here that are absolutely necessary for you to be aware of and to understand. And the ones that I really appreciate a lot, because they give links to other things as well, are graduate deadlines, thesis, scholarly research project, and dissertation checklist. I think everybody should have a link to that on your web page. And then resources for your thesis, doctoral dissertation project, or doctoral scholarly project or dissertation. Those three links are just super important, but there are plenty of other forms that you'll need as well. So please make sure that you pay attention to those and get to know them.
And Dr. Larkins, I'm sure you'll mention this, but
Uh-huh.
since Stephanie is on the call, I think I just want to mention that if you're just looking for a place to start, like I've never written a review essay. I've never had to write a literature review. Where do I even
Yeah.
start? The library has
Yeah.
fantastic web resources. Occasionally I get a random call from somebody saying, yeah, so I have this friend and they have to write a literature review, but they don't know how. So don't you have resources for that? Yes, we do. And the library has them. So Stephanie probably knows that website from heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we are happy to help anytime.
Yeah, and I'm glad you all mentioned that. I am not going to talk about it today, but the library is invaluable, and we are going to talk about the lit review extensively the next time we get together. So, yeah, the library is another important resource. There are a lot of different resources that you can use. So I really encourage you. And, the research topic might be, it might be useful to talk to a librarian about that as well. So I just wanted to have you think about your research topic. This is something that if you come up with it in the first year, it'll be so much better for you than to wait until all your courses are done and then try to think of a topic. It's just, I can't emphasize how important it is to try to get on a topic. So you need to understand where it comes from and why it's important, but it really can guide you in a lot of ways. What the topic is, it describes a problem or a question that you've had. And there are different ways to find that problem or question, but the two main ways are from your own experience or the literature that you read. So you're going to be taking a lot of classes, and they have different ideas in those classes. And I just encourage you to look at those topics that they come up with, or like I say, in your own experience. I don't know what your field is, but if it's biology or teacher education or psychology or whatever, there are things you will do in your classroom experience that will help you think of a question. Why is this way, and what can we find out about it? It should be of sufficient importance to warrant an investigation, and I'll talk about that just a little bit more. It should be researchable, and it should be an issue for which the answer is not already known. So, what it is not is a research question. A topic is an idea that you have. It doesn't need to be really well formed. You can just say, you know what, I'm really interested in this topic. A research question is something that has to be much more developed, and you may need help developing that research question. In my experience with all the dissertation committees I've been involved in, during your research proposal, the research question is the one that is most debated about and causes the most concern for the faculty who are looking at your research. So don't worry about developing a research question right off the bat. What you should worry about is the research topic. It's not a problem statement, although you can see a problem that's happening in the world and say, what can we find out about this? How can we research it? But a research topic can be a problem, or it might not be a problem. It may be something that's going really well and you want to know more about it. But a problem statement often happens in research, and it is, again, a little more refined than just a research topic. And finally, it's not a hypothesis. A hypothesis is an answer to the research question, and we'll get into that next time we talk. But none of those are as general as I want you to do. In the first year, I just want you to be thinking of a research topic. at least, if you're past your first year, at least do it before you end all your classes. And then I've got a couple quotes down here, and I think it's just really important because we're so used to having people tell us things that sometimes we forget to just think about our own thoughts. And so I really encourage you to just become a really inquisitive person who wants to understand things and try to find your topic that way. So be an observer, watch what goes on around you in your classrooms, in different parts of the world, and just develop questions. You can have a whole list of questions and then refine them, but it's better to have more questions than not enough. You will review the literature in many classes probably, and that literature review will help you. And what I've done with the literature review when I was a student was every class I took the topic that I was interested in and I added to my literature review so that by the time my dissertation came around, I had a great deal of the literature review already finished because I had written about it in so many different classes.
Hey,
It
Randy,
should,
not to interrupt your thoughts, but
yeah,
what
go ahead.
I did something similar with my kind of parking lot, and it was it was running bibliographies. So I might have a topic I
Yes.
thought I'd be interested in, maybe I'd written a paper on it or something, and I would add those to my running bibliography. So I knew what literature to go back to when I was ready to start really doing my research. But I'm a historian, so that's a bit different. But that was,
Yeah.
I was dealing with text. And so I had my running list
Yeah.
of books and
Yes.
articles.
So in your parking lot, you have some possible topics, some possible questions that you might have, and yes, absolutely, some possible articles or books that might really help you with that topic. By the time you get to writing your dissertation, you should be very close to being an expert on this topic. And so by the time you defend your dissertation, you are the expert in the room. You know more than any of the faculty who are looking at you. And so yeah, that parking lot is invaluable in terms of just making sure that you have the resources you need to be able to do this well. So why should your topic be of sufficient importance? Almost any topic can be of sufficient importance, but what we mean by that is that this topic should be something that, to me, research changes the world. And it may not change the entire world. It may just change a few people, but it somehow changes the world to make it a better place. And so we want this to be important enough that it makes a difference in somebody's life. Here's an example. Suppose I go out and I see a farmer who's plowing their field in a different way. Maybe it's horizontal versus vertical for some reason. Well, if I want to know why Mr. Jones is doing that, that may not be very important to anybody but Mr. Jones. But if I all of a sudden notice that a bunch of farmers are plowing their field in a different way than has been done before, I may want to know about that and I may ask about that, and I may find that there's some ecological issue that's going on there that's really important. And so all of a sudden it becomes of importance to more than just Farmer Jones. It may be important to a lot of people, and you might be able to help lead that topic to a better understanding. Why is it researchable? Because we need an answer. We need some answers. Your dissertation is to help people understand. So we further this topic and the knowledge of this topic. But almost anything can be researchable. So my favorite example is there a God? That's not a researchable question. We can't verify that there is a God, but we can verify the number of people who believe in God and what they believe God is. So we can turn almost any topic into a researchable topic, but sometimes you may need help to be able to do that. And then an issue for which the answer is not already known. Well, what I said before was that we're trying to add to the body of knowledge. So we're not just already stating what's already known, we're trying to advance it in some way. So that means you may take a topic that's fairly common and approach it in a different way and add to that knowledge. So it doesn't mean that it has to be completely unknown, but you have to somehow add to it so that what you add is valuable to the people who are interested in that topic.
Hey, I was just about to ask you about that, Randy, because
Uh-huh.
so there's a lot, just to give an example, there's a lot of research on trauma, for example, and
Yes.
first responders and the secondary trauma they experience from what they've seen and heard. But
Yes.
we recently had a student who looked at that from the standpoint of K through 12 teachers
Yes.
and
Yes.
secondary trauma. And I happened to be on her committee. And it was a different look. It was a new look, an old problem.
Right. And I think, you know, I've been involved in some committees where they have always looked at the topic in a certain way. So they've used quantitative research, for instance, they've used surveys to find out what an entire group of people are thinking. But these students have changed it so that it becomes a case study. They look at a specific group of people to see how they're experiencing that. And so it becomes a different way to look at it, and we gather more understanding. So thank you for that example. That was great. So now that you have your topic, and again, I just can't stress enough that you need your topic early. You can change topics. Like I said, you can have a list of topics, but try to get a topic pretty early in your doctoral process. How can you really plan for that? So coursework is super important. It can help you understand your topic. You can take a schedule. I mean, everybody's got to have a certain number of credits to graduate, but usually there are options in those credits. What I'm suggesting is that you take your credits and you plan it so around your topic so that you can get a better understanding of your topic as much as possible. And it may be that you can't do your topic, but you might take classes on just how to conduct research so that you can do the research you need to do. It may be how you take classes that analyze and interpret your research. So think about how you're going to use those courses wisely so that by the end of your coursework, you're all set to just begin your dissertation. There is a thing called a plan of study, and if you haven't looked at it, it's something that you will have. It's in a thing called DegreeWorks, and if you're not familiar with DegreeWorks, I encourage you to find out about it. But a plan of study is the courses that you're going to take throughout your academic career. And so use that plan of study to plan the courses that you're going to take so that you can gain knowledge of your topic, gain knowledge of the research methods that you're going to use, and also have a plan for how you're going to do the transitions, because there are different steps in your process. And we'll talk about that just a little bit later. And finally, how are you going to finish your coursework and be able to concentrate on your dissertation? So,
Dr. Larkins, I was
yeah,
just mentioned that plans of study are not submitted to the graduate school anymore because it's
right.
all in DegreeWorks. But we are working on some templates. I hope within the next year we'll be able to come out with templates for different programs.
Yeah.
So students can plan out their courses in the way that you're talking about. So you'd have your DegreeWorks page that shows all your requirements, but then you'd have another tab that's a template where you can fill in courses when you need to take them, when your program says you ought to be preparing for comps, and have all of that kind of built in so you have a visual representation of your progress.
Yeah, that's wonderful. But it also is, I can't emphasize this enough either. It's more than just a list of courses you're taking so that you can graduate. It's a list of courses that'll help you understand what you need to do about your dissertation topic. Because in the end, you can take all the courses you want, and if you don't file your dissertation, then you don't graduate. So you really need to understand your dissertation.
And that's a critical difference between
Yeah.
doing a graduate degree and a graduate research degree that involves
Yes.
a dissertation, and doing like an undergrad or a master's degree that just has a comprehensive exam.
Right. Right.
That's the huge difference.
Well, and even then, I talked to a friend about this week. My first job, professional job, came about because I took a course that I didn't need. And when my employer asked me why I would take such a difficult course, I told them that it was because my topic, my interest is seeing how students succeed. And I felt that that course was invaluable in helping me understand that. And so they hired me because they said nobody would take that course unless they were crazy or unless you really meant it. And so I got my job because I didn't just take courses, I took them for a reason. And that's what I want you all to do too. So here's another thing that you really need to think about, and this can be at the beginning too, because during your coursework, you're going to meet a lot of different professors who teach you. And so you need to understand them. You need to understand if you can get along with them and if they could be possibly part of your committee. So there are 4 members usually in your committee. Sometimes there's 5, but we're going to pretend there's just 4. And the first one, and most important, is your research advisor. This research advisor. Oh, and let me explain something. When you're admitted into your program, you will get an advisor, but that's a program advisor. And so you can choose your research advisor, and that may not be your program advisor. Okay. I did not know there was a difference. And so when I went to my program advisor and told her I wanted to change to someone else, I felt really guilty. I felt like I was deserting her, and she was just fine with it. And most people will be just fine with it. So, research advisor is somebody who should have some interest in your topic, definitely has an interest in you, and will be around to help you. Because one thing I know about doctoral students is that life likes to give you obstacles. And so your research advisor should be able to help you through those obstacles. They become a really constant companion throughout your process. So choose your research advisor really well. Then there are 3 other committee members, and your research advisor can help you with choosing those committee members. Both committee members should, if you're lucky at least, have some sort of knowledge about some aspect of your research so that they can help you with that. It can be a lot of different things. It could be analyzing. It could be just the topic itself. It could be a diversity issue. But try to find other people who at least understand some aspect of your topic so that they can help you when it comes to it. There's one other person who is called the faculty representative, who their job is to make sure that all university requirements and regulations are fulfilled. But this person can be even more. Again, they can help you with some other things. In applied statistics and research methods, we're often asked to be a part of a committee as a faculty representative, but more importantly, we help with the research methods that you have to do. So try to find a faculty representative who is really interested in your topic and can help you with that. If you get 4 people who all are interested in at least aspects of your research and they can all work together, it's an amazing feeling to go in front of those 4 people and try to talk about your topic and have them so interested. I've never had such a fun time as when I went in to defend my proposal and found out that these people were so interested in my topic. I mean, it really meant a lot to me as a student. So your research advisor should help you form that committee that works together well and will work for your benefit. So get your advisor first and then talk to them about the other members that you should have. And the committee members, the research advisor and the 2 committee members all come from your department or at least a related department. The faculty representative can be any faculty in the university who has a certain, it's called GF, General Faculty. What is that called, Cindy? Sorry.
I'm sorry, Randy, which one?
Status, General Faculty Status, GF. The faculty representative can be anybody who has a GF status, but the research advisor has to have what's called a DRE status.
Right, doctoral research endorsement.
Right.
And we're also looking to implement a specific kind of mentoring training that Dr. Larkins
Yes.
and that Ms. Weigand has also been through, Weigand. So, and I have too. So that is really meant to type of mentoring training that's really meant to help mentors support their students and create healthy mentoring environments.
So what do you need from the doctoral committee? You are not alone. The minute you get your committee, I suggest that you really talk to everyone on your committee about what you're planning on doing and why you're planning on doing it. And they can really help you understand whether you're doing things right or not, ways that you might improve your dissertation that you never thought about. And I can't stress enough that they can support you when you're feeling overwhelmed, and at least once or twice or more in your process, you're going to feel a little overwhelmed. So make sure that you have a committee who can really support you.
Dr. Larkins?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but how would you go about choosing your research advisor?
Choosing my research advisor, I would take at least 1 or more classes with them, and I would arrange for office hours with them and talk to them and just see how compatible they are with me. I mean, this person actually, I don't care how much they know about your topic. What I need to know is that they'll be there for me and they'll support me and they'll help me when I'm doing things wrong, and they can help me get straightened out. So I need to know that I can communicate with them. I made a mistake when I was in my master's degree. I chose somebody who seemed really, well, he was really intelligent and he was really friendly when I first saw him. But then I tried to communicate with him and he was helping me with my statistics. I tried to communicate with him after that and after he became part of my committee, and I never could get a hold of him. And so it really didn't matter that he was knowledgeable. I never used him. So don't do that. Your advisor should be somebody you can communicate with and who can really help you. And if they say they're too busy or they just don't have time, then don't push them. Make sure that they actually are interested in you. Does that answer your question, Dr. Wesley, or do you have other thoughts?
Yes, and I've also just put in an answer to a question about a retired faculty member serving as a research advisor. That's a kind of policy piece, but it's also, I think there's kind of an assumption that once somebody retires, they may stay really active in their field, but they may not. They may say, I'm ready to retire, spend time doing things I want to do. And also they get out of touch with the policies and processes followed in the university. So if someone is your research advisor already, or they're appointed before they retire, they can keep that role for 3 years. So it's kind of like, you better hurry up
That's
and
right.
finish, because at the end of that 3 years, they can't be your research advisor anymore.
Yeah, you have a timeline. That's right. Sometimes that might be a good thing, but
Come on, Dr. Larkins, just postpone retirement for 1 year, and that'll keep me within that 3 years.
This is coming
Thanks,
straight from
Randy.
Randy and from me, Dr. Larkins. Come on.
Okay. Well, I have just a few other suggestions. The comprehensive exam is necessary. So you take different steps in your doctoral process. The first is the classes, and you make sure and get as much out of your classes as you can. But then there comes a point where you have a comprehensive exam, and I can't really explain your comprehensive exam because it's different for everybody. But you have a written comprehensive exam and an oral comprehensive exam. You should make sure and plan for those so that you can succeed in them, and do it as plan for that comprehensive exam as soon as you feel like you're ready to take it, and go ahead and do it carefully so that you can succeed the first time and begin your dissertation process. Right now, you have 4 proposal credits and 12 dissertation credits. I don't know how that'll be in the future, but for right now, that's what doctoral students have. You should use those wisely. I have known too many students who, like I said, have finished their classes, so they take proposal or dissertation credits and they're not ready for it, and so they misuse them, and by the time they're ready to do their dissertation, they've used up all their credits. Don't do that. With every class you take, or whenever you come across something that adds to your topic, put those ideas in a parking lot folder. Make sure and keep that parking lot there with you, and keep it sacred, because it'll save you so much time. I was actually commended a few different times because my dissertation went so fast. Well, it was because I already had everything in place before I started writing my dissertation. So I really encourage you to do the same thing. And that's it for tonight. Like I say, next time I'll talk about what a proposal is, and I'll go through chapter 1, 2, and 3 and the IRB process with you. And then chapter 3, I'll talk about what happens after you collect all your data. So,
Randy, if I could just chime in, if we go back to the committees,
yeah,
the doctoral committee, I like your advice about choosing a research advisor. I suppose in some fields, a person who knows your topic or who knows your methodology is more important than in others. But that communication piece is just essential, because when I get students who are having difficulty or who are asking for some intervention with their doctoral committee, it's
yeah,
usually because communication has broken down with the research advisor.
yes,
It doesn't happen a lot. I just want to say, I don't want you to worry about that, students, but when it happens, it's often because expectations weren't aligned really early on. And I would encourage you, as you're talking with people and considering who your research advisor would be, get a sense of their communication style. Talk to them about how they give feedback. Talk to them about, what their schedules look like. So if you're someone, if you send them information and they don't get back to you for 4 weeks, that's really rough. But if you can come up with a kind of shared understanding of, if it's a really important question, let me know and I'll get back to you within 4 hours. Otherwise, I'll try to answer you within 3 or 4 days, given my workload. And if this is material that is for your proposal or something like that, then give me 2 weeks to read and give you feedback on it. I'd
Yeah.
also say that just faculty rep, there are all kinds of folks around the university who are great being a faculty rep in humanities and social sciences. Those graduate faculty don't have doctoral students. They are great in their fields of history, sociology. A lot of them have education backgrounds, so I would encourage you to consider someone from there. Your faculty representative must be a full-time employee of the university. So sometimes there are administrators like me who serve in that role. Most of the time they're faculty, but that's where you can't have like a retired person or someone who's left UNC, because that's the person who's making sure you're protected and that the committee is following all the processes that it should.
Yes.
So I know it's a
also had
lot.
a question.
Yeah.
We've also had a question about how early is too early to request a faculty to be your advisor. How soon can that be done? And I think, Randy, this is probably still aimed right at you.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that you really need to get to know that person. Like I said, when I was a master's, I chose the person who would help me with statistics on my committee because he came in and gave a wonderful presentation. And he just seemed like a really nice, friendly guy who would be really good to work with. Well, it was one presentation, and he turned out to be too busy to bother with me. And so even one class doesn't necessarily mean that this is a great person. Or I shouldn't even say it that way. It's whether or not they're compatible with you, whether you and that person works together really well. And so I say probably not your first year, at least your second or third year. Before you finish classes, I think you should have somebody on board who could be your advisor. Does that make sense?
And actually, I'll just say from graduate school standpoint, your committee has to be in place for us to record the results of your written and oral comprehensive exams.
Yes, you absolutely have to have somebody before your comprehensive exams, but I think that's a little late. I think it'd be nicer to have somebody on board before that so they can help you plan for your comprehensive exams. So what other questions do you have? It's nice to see you all.
well, if I may, please go ahead.
I don't know if it's typical, but I think it's a great idea. You chose the minor to be compatible with your major. So I think it would be wonderful to have somebody from your minor on your committee. It's a great question. Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And usually, just to say, usually the program advisor role is handed off to the research advisor. When you get to that point,
Yes.
the research advisor becomes the primary person directing you through things. But I know plenty of students who have their program advisor, that person happens to become their research advisor.
Yeah. Betsy, thank you. Saeed, thank you. Any other questions I can help you with in the few minutes we've got left?
I'd like to ask, Cindy, is there a list of graduate faculty out there? So if students, because you mentioned that there are graduate faculty that don't have graduate students that they're advising because they don't have graduate students in their field, how do people learn about them?
Stephanie, it's interesting. I know you directed this to Cindy, but it's interesting you should ask that because somebody just came to my office yesterday and said that he really didn't have any classes outside of his discipline yet. And so he didn't know who to choose for a faculty representative. And I asked him to send me an email, and I'm forwarding it to our dean right now to see if they can send a list out to see who would be interested in being a faculty representative. It's not easy sometimes.
Right. And I've suggested to some programs like nursing, DNP program, where they do a doctoral scholarly project instead of a dissertation, that they might work with a handful of people who will understand what that is from, say, another clinical program. But I get requests. I mean, students will email me and say, my research advisor suggested I contact you to ask about potential faculty. And I'll go back and say, well, what's your topic? You know, what are you interested in? And if it's something that I think a person from sociology or history or English or, you know, they're great graduate programs over in HSS. They just don't do doctoral programs.
But we
I
don't
serve on a
have
lot of music committees.
Do we have a public facing page that lists who at UNC are graduate faculty?
You know, do have it in the catalog, but the catalog folks
Okay.
haven't wanted to update it because it's really, really long. So again, and there are some issues around data privacy with putting it on a public facing webpage.
Okay.
So I am happy to direct students to
Okay.
folks who have that status.
Well, like I
So
say, remember, not everybody has a GF status. So you
Right.
need to make sure that they do have that GF status. The
Yes.
DRE is what you need for your advisor, but other committee members can have a GF status.
And just to say the difference is graduate faculty normally have a terminal degree or something equivalent, and they're doing some research, they're doing some graduate teaching, they're contributing to graduate education. DRE, it's more on research because they're guiding your research. So we want them to be people who have research, creative work, scholarship. That it could be, and we recognize at UNC that we have a lot of different types of programs. So, you know, is it better for the person in education to publish in this peer-reviewed journal or to publish on chalkboard, you know, to publish in a regional publication that might be more useful to teachers? And we take all that into account, but DRE people tend to be more research active and they have to go through more training than the graduate faculty folks.
Okay,
Well,
well,
I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and I want to thank both of our speakers so much for joining us today. I have more questions I'd love to ask, but since we're at time, I don't want to keep people here late. So thank you so much. Don't forget to register for the next 2 sessions in this series and the other sessions for Bear Grads this spring. You'll see it in that link that I sent out through the chat. Our next session with Randy will be coming up, I believe, on March 27th, I believe is the next one, and then April 24th for the third one. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and especially to our speakers. This was wonderful, and I thank you.
all right. Thank you. And thank you all for
Thanks,
coming.
everyone.